Nothing right on with that.
Oh, this is
That's-
You ready? Okay, call the March 9th, 2022 Barnes County North School Board meeting to order. Welcome everybody that's here tonight. And turn it over to Mr. Severson for some thank you and congratulations.
Just two thank yous for our basketball coaches, boys and girls. Both seasons are completed, and the elementary girls has began, and also track is up and running.
Okay. Thank you. Anything additional on the agenda? Okay. We move to consent agenda. There are questions on minutes, bills, or financial reports.
I had a question on the activity. All of the, like, wrapping fees and stuff are all reimbursed, how's that transaction? How does that work?
The repping stuff is now going through payroll, because that's how state law says that it should be. If they're an employee, they're always an employee.
Okay. Cause I was trying to figure out where we were at for income on games and stuff, and it made it real
Yeah,
hard. to follow.
if they're not an employee of the state, of the school, then it goes through extracurricular. And the extracurricular reports that are sent out aren't very good, because we do it through QuickBooks, and so there's really,
What's the point of that report, period? I mean, it doesn't show anything. It shows what the gate comes in and a bunch of transactions in and out, seems.
so that's basically all there is in that account. You know, the only thing that's really paid out of there is reps. We buy like uniforms, things like that. It's strictly an extracurricular account. But yeah, it's not ideal. I personally would like to work with the new auditor to get it moved into SUI at some point, but I don't know why it was ever set up in QuickBooks. I don't know if anyone here knows, but I do not know. I'm
So the gate goes into that, but then where does that,
It
how,
just sits
it
in
sits
there.
there, right?
Was that from
It's not definitely
way-
not money making.
way back legacy when we had 3 different school districts, or 2 different school districts with one activity? So that all
Could have
went,
been back.
yeah,
yes,
and that just might have just been legacy from way back then.
Could be.
Yeah,
'Cause I know at one
the
time we
general
were just-
fund feeds that account.
I was gonna say, because usually we just throw some money into that account.
Mm-hmm.
That's about like it's been since you've been here, isn't it, Mr. Severson?
Mhm.
Just dump amount into that?
Yep.
But as we move forward, that might be something we could look at, looking at that.
Yeah, there was, seemed to be a lot of attachments to review for this one, and
Yeah.
there doesn't seem to flow very well. I mean, there's just so much information there, it's hard to really sit down and process it all.
Mhm.
And some repetition.
Hmm. Other questions? If not, we would need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Rob? You ready? That's roll call.
Rob,
Yes.
Chad,
Yep.
Michelle.
Yes.
Cindy. Yes. Mike.
Mike, yes.
Lee.
Yes.
Eric.
Yes.
Brett.
Yes.
President, before you can maybe tell a little more about, I got a message from, I was trying to read that today for your certification. You were about done with your business manager
yeah.
stuff. And they are gonna recognize you in May,
Yep, on May 5th.
so I will get something to you. I got something just today telling us about that, so so Lindsay will be recognized for completing that,
Way to
that
go.
work, so.
Woo woo.
Kind of
Thanks.
super manager.
We do.
Okay,
Plethora of knowledge.
Career and Tech, we meet tomorrow. It will be a long meeting. We've heard back from the state, but we will, you'll hear
Report
more.
next time.
We'll report next time.
Okay. Perfect.
Events, technology reports. Yeah.
Yes, a couple things after the meeting last month. I had talked about those purchases for next year. The only thing that I was missing on there that I hadn't got to you guys was the price of the copiers. So Janelle was out, a little over a week ago and met with Lindsay and Deb and myself. And gave us a quote for $23,286 to, trade in what we have, which is basically worth nothing. The machines are well used. And
And that's 3 machines?
that
No.
would be, this one, there's 4. So the library, the main office, the elementary workroom,
That's right.
and then there's,
The science.
actually it's for 5. Then there's a multifunction down at the Way Elementary end, and then Lindsay has a printer as well that they service for just printing checks that she just uses. So it's very comparable to what we paid back in 17. If I look back in 17, that's the wrong email. I can't remember the price that I gave you guys back in. Okay, 23,286 is what he gave me now. And copiers. Back in 2017, it was 22,947. So,
That's about every 5 years then?
yeah. So that's not what we expected, because I think it was you that said, oh, I mean, with the way that
We were expecting.
prices go
Yeah.
up,
Yeah.
that little bit of increase. So that was the only thing that I did not have on that spreadsheet. And you all have a copy of that spreadsheet. I had sent it out to you for the 2022 purposes, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And then Eric had talked about if I had the information, and I have an inventory. I went around and just kind of re-updated just to make sure things didn't get moved. And I put together a pivot table for you so you could see where everything is located and numbers in each classroom, and then broken down by year. So my proposal on that purchases spreadsheet is going off what you see for the data here. So if you look like the student laptops, I said we buy 20 because they come in packs of 10. If you look, there's 19 student laptops from 2017 that are going on 5 years, no longer covered by insurance. That's about a good span of time for those. And then also so one of them, the one that's stapled, is for computers. And this one is for iOS devices, mobile devices. Okay, so that's where I got that number for the iPad 5th gen. That we have out, we still have 25 student iPads that are still 5th generation that are from about that year 2, I think 2017, that we need to be replaced. So, I will let you take a copy with us. I can send you an electronic copy too, so that you can break it down and see where our inventory is. But this is what I'm looking at when saying we need to cycle out some student iPads and some student laptops, and the staff laptops are on here too. I think there were 15 of those that need to get out this year. So, I don't know how you want me to proceed with those purchases that we talked about at the last meeting. I've talked to Lindsay, and I have had conversations about the budgeting of it, so she can probably tell you more about the money and how comfortable that would be to spend that money. I'm looking at you because you helped me in the copiers meeting. You're like, we've got this, and then she rambles it off. I'm like,
My
okay.
opinion is that we would be best served buying what we need during this next fiscal year, because the carryover limit is going to be a requirement again in June of 2023. So the higher our expenditures are, the more we can carry over. And because of COVID, we have the extra money now to spend, so.
Which Lindsay had touched base with me, when we still visit a little bit at budget and finance, but the thought is, they're looking to try to extend that 35, but they aren't there yet. So that would give us a little more carryover, because they go up expenses. Because it's gonna still be the 35 plus 50,000, right? As it sits right now, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Because we've got all that other. but you're asking where to go. I think
Right,
that's
I
what we
mean,
gotta,
if you-
we're gonna have to work at
If you wanna look
budget.
at this budget and financing and
Yeah.
you wanna approve purchases, say, next meeting, I'm just saying that I wanna start getting stuff ordered. We're in March now, and things are backed up, and now with what's going on with our country now, it makes me nervous that all of a sudden, we're gonna go up.
Right, so that's why I guess we're the question, do we need to go to budget, or do we wanna go off this recommendation to get them purchased now?
I guess I'd get them done.
That's where I guess I'm asking, where do you wanna go?
We're running into trouble, just, even if you order it, doesn't mean you're gonna get
Get
it
it.
at
Right.
any time, so.
But we're talking, are we talking about the purchases that I propose, or just the copiers? Cause
Get her done.
we're making.
I think we're talking the whole,
The whole-
everything.
Okay,
package.
that's what I wanna make sure I understand, because that
cause
just.
last time we talked about doing them, and then the other, we talked about staging with the,
Staging them out.
with the copiers, but I think it makes sense, the way we're looking at, it, to do them all at one time.
Right.
Just make sure we can get invoiced in July.
Right, and he said he could do that, and he gave some very good reasons on why not to stage them, just because
Yeah.
your costs, it's, on the maintenance part of it, it's going to be confusing too, because your costs are gonna be different, because of serving an old machine versus a new machine, and,
It could cost 3 cents a sheet on this machine, and if you replace that one next year, it could cost 5 cents a sheet, and
Right.
you just have different.
Yep.
Costs, everything.
so, and they've been really good to us.
But the idea is we need to get them in next fiscal year. Correct, Lindsay? That-
Yes.
And they're okay with billing that way?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and I think most places, are going to work with you too. I can work with Lindsay on what she wants billed after July first, like even our switches and stuff.
Well, they did that the last time.
They did
Yeah.
a lot,
Too.
yeah.
Yeah, most places are really good about working with you on that. Okay.
Place your order.
Yahoo!
What's the total, like, $165,000?
You have the total that we'd be looking to approve,
Yes, let me just add the copiers.
because we're gonna add the copiers in.
Let me add the copiers in here.
190.
We're pretty close, yeah.
Can we round up?
Not gonna round up.
This total.
That is using all the E-rate also, right? That we-
This is including the E-rate funds that are used, because my total cost for my switches I have on my spreadsheet is $77,481.04. That's our balance after those E-rate funds.
Okay.
Okay, so, my total is $163,603.98.
And that's copiers included?
That is copiers, that's switches, UPS, staff laptops, student laptops, iPads, iPad cases, copiers, insurance, that's for the new laptops, which comes back anyway, cause the students pay half of that back anyway, cause that's an optional fee. And then Windows laptops that need to be replaced in Fayette.
Okay, so we're looking at that
Oh, that's not my
160.
rate. Oh, you thought it was right?
Kind of an expensive hobby to keep around here. I'd make a motion to
Make a
approve
motion to
that.
do the 163,
I'll second it.
and Sharon, second. Any other discussion there? Not, roll call.
Rob,
Yes.
Chad,
Yeah.
Michelle,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Lee, Eric, Brett.
Yes.
And I can resend this and put this stuff in Google too, so you have electronic copies of this and the particulars.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know how this fits our budget. In the fact that, I'm assuming it's not 163,000 next year, probably nowhere near that.
No.
But what do we budget yearly to afford 163,000 this year?
Yeah, how do we start putting that away so in
And how,
5 or 10 years when we need to do it again?
Yeah.
we're prepared for it, we're not coming with a big ask, the money's already there and it just happens.
I would assume that would be the new superintendent that would work with me on that.
That's kind of what we talked about, I think, last time too, kind of projecting ahead what those numbers might be, you know?
Yep.
Cause it'll look pretty extreme with 163,000 in there this year, and then whatever it is next year will be drastically lower, but to have that average budgeted in, so the money's there, so when it happens again, it's already.
there.
This will actually go into next year's budget.
Okay.
The problem is you can't really save money in a school district for future expenses because of that carryover
That's the carryover.
requirement.
Unless it goes into building fund,
But then you can't use it for,
Which we can't use for technology.
Yeah.
So,
but that's an integral part of the building, the switches,
The switches would be, yes,
you know.
but I mean, some of this other stuff, we probably
So I
cannot.
mean, if we had to break the switches out, oh, they're not looking at those for another 6 years, 8 years again.
I can do whatever, like way back in the day, I know, that we met, each department would kind of meet and work budgetary wise. Actually, it was back when we had tech ed, because we even had regular meetings with Mrs. Beatty and myself, and I don't know who was the business manager at that time, if it was Karen still, or, I don't know, I don't remember, but we did used to meet on a consistent basis and do that, and I haven't submitted anything for a long time, just, I suppose with turnover and differences and the way things are done, and, but I can do anything, I can work with Lindsay, I can work with that new superintendent, cause I usually know, I mean, every spring, I usually put something together for you guys as to, here's what we're looking for next year.
Yep.
I don't really know what, I've never really been given a budget, or we used to have things come out of services purchased locally, equipment, do we,
it's still the same.
it does still follow that, okay.
So I think
So,
to
yeah,
get
that-
what you're saying, Eric, would be that once a new superintendent is hired, get together with Lindsay, get together with you and budget and finance, and that,
We gotta project
we just need to
ahead.
start.
I mean, we had funds for this with us, it was a great
Yeah.
use of those funds,
But
but
now we gotta
10
plan.
years from now, they won't, I
Right.
mean, we won't have the same funding source we did.
But
for
I
this
think
one.
that's a conversation for new superintendent, business manager, budget and finance.
Yes.
I mean, I think that's,
But we are
Yeah.
gonna have to start planning ahead more than we have been.
Is that something you can replace every year, so you plan that budget, $50,000 every year, you're gonna buy, replace 15 machines or 20 machines or whatever it is?
Yeah, I mean, our machines, we pretty much have our machines
Yeah.
and our iPads on a cycle. This looks the way it does because of our building switches.
The switches
Right.
and the,
Yep.
switches and the
is-
copiers tied into the same thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, I mean, that's the hangup here, is that big, we're looking at $77,000 in switches. We're gonna have to have a conversation on how we wanna do that in the future. When you move into a new building, and you put
Everything's
all
new.
these switches in at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
what do we do? Like I said last time, do I go 3 years and we have, 4 data closets. Do I go 2 or 3 years and take out completely fine switches and spend 12 grand a year or 20, whatever, a year? I don't know. And I've asked even the people we purchase from, every school is different. Every school will cycle out. Some schools just do this because they're ready for the E-rate, the next,
And I think it's gonna be a budget, we just gotta know some of the numbers and see what we can plan with, if it's reserves or what we gotta play with, or we're just gonna have to go budget and finance, but
Yeah.
we're gonna need those numbers.
Yep.
We gotta get a little more ahead, so we know 1 year, 2 years or something, moving ahead, what that could be.
yeah, and like I said, there was a time where I put in like the next couple of years, this
Right.
is what we're looking at. If you need me to put together what we're looking at in the next couple of years that I
think-
can predict,
I
I
think
can't
that's what we
predict
need.
stuff.
That's
That
good.
breaks.
There are some
breaks,
things
yeah.
I can't predict, but I can predict the rotation of devices based
That-
on the data that I gave you.
That's what I think we need to see as we look ahead.
Yeah,
Yes.
that is not a problem.
Okay, thanks. Anything else, questions, technology, Or anything more you have to add, Melissa?
I don't think so.
Okay, thank you. Sabusi, pre-K six principal.
So we just had conferences and family engagement night. Feedback on the elementary side was that it went well. I want to thank Sarah and Lisa for planning that for us. And then we are also in the midst of reading month, which they also planned. So thank you to them for that. And thank you for the teachers. We have some activities. We had a guy come in and he was the guest reader, but the kids were so intrigued by what he had to say, I'm not sure he actually got to the reading part. He was a game warden, and so that was really great. And then, I'd like to thank Mike and Michelle for volunteering their time, to monitor our Ox Gym and the readers in there. And then to the board for the food, that night, and for feeding us. We have pre-K screenings Friday. We have 14 kids to be screened, but we're fluctuating between there's some that are not going to screen and coming in, so we have been between 14 and 18 that are eligible within our district. So I'll be meeting with Ms. Mears after the screening process, and we'll be discussing options for that moving forward. We were just approved today. I submitted a book study approval for credit through Valley City State. So there's 20 staff members signed up for a book study on Raising Lions, it's called, with Joe Newman. Mrs. Kuderna, Mrs. Miller, and I met with him via Zoom, and we have 20 people signed up to do it, and then the teachers, if they need credits to renew their license, that's available through Valley City State. We held our Title I Math and ELA meeting, and then Mrs. Brin will be sharing data with you later at this meeting. And then our peer leaders we got into a routine of meeting weekly with Mrs. Anderson as part of her credit or her internship hours for her counseling program, so she does that on her lunch with them. And so I have the updated house system stuff too, and I want to remind you of every time a teacher gives out a point, they're intentional about talking to those students and what they're doing. Very few of them don't have an interaction with the student. And so I had a parent also say, I don't know how your staff is finding the time to write out the Bison Pride cards, but it's amazing that they do. We're at 8,000 points just in our daily interactions and giving them, and 346 cards have been sent out through the mail. Sorry, Lindsay, on the envelope budget. And as of this week, all elementary students have received a card from somebody in the staff here, so we celebrated that too.
Okay. Any questions? Not, thank you. Mr. Wilson, 712.
Eighth graders went to the STEMtastic event on Monday in Jamestown, at the University of Jamestown. They all brought home or brought back devices that they got to work on down there. On March 23rd, Mrs. Hines will be taking some students to the NDSCS to attend a culinary event, some of her foods class students. And then state testing starts March 22nd through the 25th for grades 3 through 8 and 10. We'll test in ELA and math, and then grades 4, 8, and 10 will test in science. And that's what we use for our school accountability, as far as that goes. And then we have a Dollars for Scholars Fun Night is Friday, April 1st. That's all I know.
Any questions, Mr. Wilson? Thank you. Mr. Severs, got AD and superintendent report?
Nothing much. We've got the elementary girls basketball going on as well as track, and then we have a makeup day on the 18th, and we have no school on the 21st. And then Easter is the 15th and the 18th, no school.
Any Severson. Okay, thank you. Any extracurricular hasn't met yet lately? Or, well, policy?
Policy, we didn't meet either, but Lindsay has sent out the policy committee some good information regarding
Okay.
policies, so thank you, Lindsay, I just wanted to tell you that. Yeah, so we need to meet, we haven't met now here for a while. We had conflicts last week.
No, like policy and some of that, when you gotta get it all put together, organized. Is there like a form or a folder of that, or?
It's all online. It's all on the website.
Okay.
Mrs. Bussey's been typing them all, and then I don't know, does it go to Mrs. Bitts, or I don't know how it works,
She
right?
gets a bunch of alerts from me saying
Oh,
they're
the
ready.
policies.
Oh, that they're ready, and,
Yes.
okay, so yes, they're all on.
So when you look
On-
to, if we look to change one, you know,
Mhm.
when we get them, do we just see what the old was and the new, or are we just getting the new?
I highlight what is
Yep.
changed when I
Okay.
send it to you guys, so you would have to look online at what the old, cause it would still be there. The old one would still be online, and then
Okay.
you'll have to compare that to the highlighted stuff.
So they don't just send the two out, old
I
and new?
absolutely could send the
I
old
mean,
one
it'd be
with
nice
it.
to know what changed, you know?
Yeah.
Could we do this, cause I think we did this before where we struck out what we were
line.
taking out.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
then
if that's
add-
what it is, I think like, for example, the pay for the meetings went from 50 to 75, so I typed in 75, and then I just highlighted that number to show that that's what
That was
changed.
changed.
So if we
Take out something, let's strike it
yeah,
through.
we absolutely will, like, strike through it or make that note, but if it's just a change in
Change of
wording,
a
like
word, or,
this policy that came up about bringing on a new board member, we might be changing some wording to make it more clear.
right,
Then yeah, we could absolutely
strike
strike
out,
out.
so
Would be just clear
it
when
is
when you see,
easier
to
when
see.
you look at it. And for us, when we go through 30, 40 in a night, and then you start asking questions, I'm like, I don't know.
And we absolutely could, I mean, it doesn't take me long to download from the website, and then I can just even pull them into a document and have them side by
I
side.
was just thinking if something changed, how's a
Yeah.
good way to know what
But it
was
is-
taken out or what was
I
added?
like the idea of striking it out and having it in one document, because when you're trying to go back and forth, you're like,
Right.
which document?
Especially if you got it, okay, I go back online and I
Yep.
got this one over here, I mean.
Yep, that's a great idea, if we can add that to our policy meeting.
I will strike out and highlight.
Perfect.
Mr. Schaefer,
Like it.
question.
So the updates are going online
Yes.
and not manually anymore?
That's some of the question I wondered, cause how are they seeing
Because
these?
we're not necessarily noticing the changes
Right.
that might be made unless we're notified of changes, which you can definitely notify us through changes through an email or whatnot, because it was supposed to be where if there was any changes in the policy, it was supposed to be brought here, because there was a manual script on policy, and that was supposed to be brought into the manual.
Where's the manual at?
There's a copy here in the library.
Oh, it is, okay.
So if there was any policy changes, it was supposed to be
Well,
to our notification.
we went a long
if there was
time when
policy
nobody
changes.
knew where that policy book was, so,
Yeah, well, and policy changes are always approved
at the board.
at the board meeting, which
Right.
would be in the notes too. So is that
Correct,
good
but
enough?
But
just
are
in
they
case somebody
seeing them to
doesn't see
give
the-
input
the
before it
notes.
gets here?
It's supposed to still be notified that that policy was changed.
So you guys
Yeah.
know it, so you could have input into that, that's what I say, are they noting
So
there's a change?
who is the responsible party for getting that to the staff?
You could give that
That's
to
my
the
question.
president of,
And,
of
yeah, the
the,
president
Any-
of our organization.
so.
I'm
Mrs.
saying
Mrs.
who,
Yeah.
no,
Who
Nope.
is responsible?
who's responsible from us to get it to her, is my question.
Oh, okay.
That's my question.
Yep.
I know who it is, I just need to know who on our end is responsible for getting it there. Anyone?
Who's giving it to, I imagine it's to you that's putting it in.
Somebody's
online, so
giving it
who's giving
to get it in there.
That would be me. I was gonna say, I'm assuming it's me since I'm the one typing it.
Well, but
that
you've
should
just
be-
been hired, or not hired, you, sorry, that was wrong word. You have been doing that because
For
you attend
internship
for
hours.
internship hours.
Yes.
So my question is, we have 3 board members, and we have Mr. Severson that are at all the, 3 board
Yeah.
members or 4? 4, sorry.
Four.
4 board members and Mr. Severson that are at these policy meetings. You have graciously come to type them up and to do that for internship hours. So my question again, it's not Mrs. Bussey's responsibility to get it to that
And I think
person.
that, just thinking, we're talked about, as we've talked since last convention time, is we start looking at resetting our committees,
Right,
that there would be a chairman of that committee.
and then that person
That
would be
person would be
okay.
the one that should be moving it
relaying
on,
it on.
relaying it on.
See.
And that's what we've talked about, and Eric's talked about, it. We've
Yep.
talked about it as we go into the new year, try to set chair people for those committees. Then
So-
everybody knows who the contact is. They would know, hey, how come I didn't get this, you know.
Teachers know who to contact,
Yes.
board members know who to
Ideally,
contact.
and that's part of the discussion as we move in, what the committee structure, as we get somebody new, do like different committees or whatever, but we need to start focusing on a chairperson for committees.
Totally agree.
So I think that's what's gonna come, so. But right now, if there is some changes, we need to notify that group that there's changes
We need,
coming.
we'll
Yeah,
just notify Beth and then go from there.
the head of their group, yeah.
So we have to go back through and remind each other.
Yes,
The next person.
yes, we do.
Cindy, did you take
It
it?
doesn't have to be anything, you know, you don't have to send us the whole wording that's being changed, you can just say that
This,
AABB.
Yeah.
Look
Oh.
at AABB,
Yeah.
there was an amendment to AABB.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
whatever.
Perfect,
So,
that works.
They don't need strikeouts and highlights.
Unless
It'd be
they-
up to us to look, if we wanna look at it.
Once you do that, that they have a question, what did you change or whatever,
Then
then
they
you got
can
the
come
contact.
to
Yeah.
us. Got it. I like it.
Cause if they're noticed at the meetings and there's that items on there, that's open for them to stop by and take a look
Yep.
also.
Yep. Perfect.
Family Connection.
Okay, we finally went through our logos that had been received, and so we're working on that of how to get out to there were two that really were at the top that we are almost gonna kind of combine them. And so we're talking to those two students, so that is being done. And then, we're planning the father-daughter dance for Sunday, April 24th. So, working on that. That's about it.
Question there, not yet.
Yep.
Do you have a time for that, Michelle? Yeah, or no?
Yeah, it's like, I wanna say 2 to 4. And I'm not sure if that's accurate. Hang on. Yes, 2 to 4. Yes.
Okay, old business.
I got one
Yep,
for,
question.
maybe reports for other, do we have a booster club? Does BCN have a
Yes.
booster club?
Yes.
Well, kind of.
Kind of, basically just for,
It's not affiliated with us, so.
mostly just for lunches and that
Yeah.
type of thing.
And that's completely separate from the school?
Yes. Yes.
Fading back, so.
So, if it's separate from the school, what do they do for fundraising and things, and where's the money go?
Money goes into their club or whatever, I guess, no,
But what are they doing with it?
do not know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Do you know who's on it?
Jesse
Yes.
Albright's the one I know of. Is your wife on it?
Yeah, she does something.
Yeah, Stacy's on it too. I'm not sure either what, 'cause I think it was those
Alyssa's a
two.
good
Alyssa.
school contact.
Alyssa does the school stuff, cause she's always got the cash box.
Yeah. She does something.
Okay. Update on election process, we need some things motioned.
So we
right?
need to set polling place, precinct, and the poll hours. So the polling place and precinct has typically been the school.
Yep.
Last year, our poll hours were 8 in the morning until 7 at night. I don't know. I mean, it's a long day for people, but, I also understand why we have those hours, so.
And it's June 7th?
7.
Yep. We need a motion to set the polling place, and basically the hours. That's what we need to do here.
Is there a regulation or law that says how many hours it's gotta be open?
It has to be open until 7 PM, and it can open as late as 11 AM.
I mean, 8 o'clock, is it,
When is the busiest time? I
There is
mean,
no
there is no good
I mean, I know when we
When do
get our
people
whole
have to-
20
If you
people.
count 2 people coming in as a husband and wife to vote, that would be the busy time.
I mean,
I mean, it seems, why
Are they
have it
morning-
open at 8? Why not do the minimum 11 to 7?
I would even say like just even an hour or 2 later would be
yeah,
helpful.
you go like 9 o'clock because,
Just because
if-
the
if-
people do drive from farther away and they come in like a half hour early to
Yeah.
get their little training and,
yeah.
but I understand why you want it open earlier too, so.
Well, I mean, people that come in at 8 or, most places, I don't know, I mean,
I don't know. It's just hard because nobody shows up.
right.
I mean,
Could
last
put
year we
more
had 20.
focus on getting people to show up? I mean, do we
Yeah, we
advertise
gotta
it and stuff?
publicize it.
Well,
I mean, I'll use the meeting tonight as an example. I literally put it everywhere I possibly could. I had it 3 places in Wimbledon, I had it at the Spiritwood Resort, I had it at Sanborn in 2 places, I had it in Daisy. I had it in, every media we have here, we got what, 5, 6 people?
Additional
that weren't board
Yep.
members.
Yep.
And I felt I got it to a lot of places.
Yeah, I
You
think
know?
we
You
did.
did. You did great.
Best job we've
Yep.
had lately to get
Yep.
it out there, yeah.
For sure.
I don't know, can't drag them here, maybe if you handed out $20 bills at the door or something. That would be frowned upon.
Not with gas prices right now.
Prize drawing.
Yeah.
Maybe a Starbucks.
So,
I could see making a motion to, or I will make a motion to have at the school, at BCN, from, should we do 10 to 7, would that be? From 10 a.m. to 7 p.m., and then it's June 7th. That will be my motion.
is there a second to
I'll second, okay.
Cindy? Any other discussion? Not roll call.
Rob,
Yes.
Chad,
Yep.
Michelle,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Eric, Brett.
Yes.
Okay. Other new business, Mrs. Bryn, data report.
Hey, this is our mid-year data. And Seth, what? No, I'm good. So the high school data that you're going to see was taken at the end of the semester, so in December. And then the elementary data that you're going to see was taken in February at the end of their 2nd trimester. And Mrs. McMillan, remind me, this is the trimester 2 data is what's being submitted for our Title I paperwork, correct? Okay, so I just wanted to make sure I have that right. Preschool, as I talked about at the beginning of the year, we're using that Pelley assessment. And you can see that the growth that our preschool has had, in our advanced, that's their, like they're in the 75th percentile or higher, went up from 27% to 46. Our benchmark that's at grade level, it went from 36% to 45%. So 90% of our students in preschool are at or above benchmark. And then 9% is in tier 2, that's our on watch and stuff, and we no longer have any students in tier 3 in that preschool from that 4 and 5-year-old assessment that we are using.
That's awesome.
ESGI, we also test on 100% of the preschoolers are proficient in their shapes, which there's only 8 of them, colors, and there's 10 of them, and then letters, sounds, and uppercase, but that's split up into thirds by trimester. By the end of the year, they only need to know 23. So they do. And then 91% are proficient in number recognition, and that's from 0 to 20, letter names, and letter sounds lowercase. And again, those they only need to know 23 of the 26.
That is awesome.
Kindergarten, we have 22% of our kindergartners are in an alternate reading curriculum in addition to their classroom content. So it's just, we're trying to give them that extra boost and trying to close our on watch or close that gap as quick as we can. Kindergarten is the only one that we are required to benchmark the whole class for reading core. And in that reading core, 44% placed in the advanced, 44 were at benchmark, 6 were in tier 2, and 6% were in tier 3. Prior to that, those numbers in tier 2 and 3 were higher. That's where you get that 22% of the students that were placed. Once they're placed in reading core in kindergarten, they have to meet the spring benchmark 3 or more times in a row to be able to exit. So we have a couple that they've hit it like 1 or 2 times and then they drop and then they hit it again. So we have about 2 or 3 that are really close to being exited. So we do. Start early, we went to 89% proficient, down from 94, but I mean, that's, at this age, they fluctuate, and our goal for ELA is 75%, and kindergarten doesn't get reported on for Title I, but they're fine. I mean, their overall class percentile is fine. STAR Math, 94% were proficient in number recognition, and that was up from 71%, and 100% were proficient in quantity comparison. And then ESGI, you can see those percentages as well, 94% in letter identification in both uppercase, only 83% in lowercase. Kindergarten is required from the beginning of the year to know all 26, just because of how education has changed. And then 89% were proficient in letter sounds for both uppercase and lowercase, and this was down from 100. But we went from wanting them to know 23 to now they need to know all 20, or actually no, 31, because you have your vowel sounds.
Yep.
So, yep. First grade, 29% of our first graders are placed. Again, they're in a tier 3 curriculum, but it is in addition to their classroom content. So they're getting that double dose. We're trying to get as much double dose as we can so that by the time we reach 3rd grade, we're getting less. 14% are placed in reading core. This was the first time they took the regular STAR, and 79% of the students were proficient, so they did meet our Title I goal of 75%. So they still met our goal, and then 100% were proficient in STAR Math. Then the STAR Math CBM, those numbers, we had really nice growth from 57% to 79 in number recognition. And this is not just knowing their numbers 0 to 100. It's how many numbers can they identify and name in a minute. And they're mixed, anything from 0 to 99 on that paper. And they're timed for a minute is how they know that one, is how they determine that one. 86% in quantity comparison, up from 71%, and then 71% were proficient in addition to 10, and that's just our math facts and our fluency, how many can they do in a minute. And then the EASY CBM, we test them on their sight words. There are 41 of them, and we just have them grow by thirds, so they need to know 1/3 of the sight words trimester 1, 2/3 trimester 2, and all of them by trimester 3. And 64% knew 2/3 of them. That is down from 79, but we're expecting more too. 2nd grade, we do have 13% of our students in a tier 3 ELA. This is replacing the core classroom. And then we do have 26% that are getting that double dose. They're getting the classroom content plus a tier 3 curriculum. So they're getting that double dose. 26% are placed in reading core. 2nd grade, they grew from 57% being proficient at the end of trimester 1 to 83% being proficient at the end of trimester 2. So they have met their goal as well. And then 91% are proficient in STAR Math, and that Title I goal is 80%. So they've met that as well. 2nd grade is the last one that we check for STAR Math, CBM, and EASY CCBM because once we hit third grade and they take the state test, we don't do all the other little tests, because the state test is enough that we don't want to get them burned out. And we have some ups and downs there, but we've had students come in too. So we had a couple that came in. One I know came in at the beginning of trimester 2 or at the end of trimester 1 that was counted in trimester 2. The other one won't be counted till trimester 3 as they're moving in and out. If they're only here about a month or a couple weeks before we take the test, we don't count them because they weren't here for all the instruction. And we use this to determine, is our tier 1 curriculum working? So that's why new students, as they flow in and out, aren't counted until they're here for a while. Third grade, we did grow some students there as well. They have 15 students. 33% of the students are in a tier 3 ELA. So that replaces their core classroom. And then 27% are in an alternative grade 3 math curriculum. So most of them are doing the Go Math, that is our tier 1, but we do have a few that are doing grade 3, but it's called connecting math. It's just a lot slower pace, a lot more repetition, a lot more review, but it's still grade 3. So it is. And we're hoping to get them to their classmates as much as we can, but we also know that sometimes just that language and verbiage, some just need to go at that slower pace. Yes, we did. We're getting there. And 27% of our third graders are placed in reading core, and just as a reminder, this is their last opportunity. After third grade, they're no longer allowed to be in reading core. Star reading did go down. Again, those students that come in, and as I reported at the end of the first trimester, of our 13 new students that came in before the end of the first trimester, 100% were placed in a tier 2 or tier 3 curriculum. And we're finding that same, those ones that have come in since the end of the trimester, not 100%, but I'd say about 50% are in that tier 3. So when you have these classes of 14, 15, one student can really fluctuate those overall proficiency percentages. You can see that we do have 20% in the advanced. I remember this time, Brett. 40% at benchmark, 27% at tier 2, and 13% at tier 3. So we still have our good majority are benchmark or above. And then STAR Math, 73% were proficient, and this is down from 79%. And then you can see the breakdowns underneath. 4th through 6th grade, we grew here too. If I remember correctly, we had 48 students at the end of trimester 1. We are up to 51 students. 18% of those 51 are in a tier 3 ELA that replaces their core. 12% are in a tier 2 that is in addition to the classroom content. So we have what we call bison blocks, so a half hour every day. Mrs. McMillan, Mrs. Anderson, or the teacher will work with them on a specific skill or strategy they need to try and help them get to grade level. Whether it's comprehension, fluency, just decoding words, and we have a diagnostic that we use for that. 4% are in tier 3 math. This number is changing. We just had one 4th grader that was in tier 3 that entered back into the classroom this week and is now getting that extra boost and will be that tier 2. So then a half hour a day, get that little extra help. Cross fingers, hopefully it stays that way. And then 18% are in an alternative grade level curriculum for math. So they're at their grade level, just in that different curriculum. And that's our 6th grade Trans 1, where we use that Trans 2 and Trans 3 in 7th and 8th grade for those students that we're trying to help get caught up. Star Reading, our 4th grade met our goal. They are at up to 75%. 5th grade is at 65%, which is an increase from 60. And 6th grade is 73%, which is the same. And then Star Math, all of them met our goal of 80%. 4th grade is at 92, 5th grade is at 82, and 6th grade is at 82. 7th and 8th grade, we had 35 students at the end of the semester. That was down from 37. 31 of them tested into the Tier 3 ELA, and 23% are in a Tier 3 classroom. So they are. And some of those, it's because they're going up and down, and so if they haven't been consistently in that Tier 3 testing, they're not put into that Tier 3 for just one test. You know, it has to be, and we look at it in the classroom and stuff like that too. 31% tested in Tier 2, 9% tested in Tier 3 math, and 31% are in a Tier 3 math placement. Remember that Tier 3 math placement is at Trans Math, which is still their grade level. Am I right, Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Am I remembering that correctly? So they might be placing okay on the Star Math, but we knew the math curriculum that we had would be too hard for them, or it just takes them longer and they struggle a little bit more. We put them in that alternative one just to give them more success. And then 17% tested in Tier 2 math. For math, because of all the changes and the growth in 7th and 8th grade, they are not allowed to be exempt from the STAR test in math only for 7th and 8th grade. They are able to be exempt from the STAR reading. They have to be in the 75th percentile or above to be able to be exempt. So this, at the end of the semester, 44% were proficient, which is the same as before. And then this is the first one they were able to be exempt from, and 25% of the 7th graders were allowed to be exempt from taking the test, and 5% for 8th grade. That number did go up after this last testing, because then each testing period, if they reach it at the end of the semester, then they're done for the year. So that number will be changing. And then STAR Math, 69% were proficient in 7th grade, which was the same, and 8th grade, 79% were proficient. And then 9 through 12, we had 59 students take the test. This was down from 60. 10% of our grades 9 through 11 are in developmental ELA with Mrs. McGee. 41% of our 9th grade were proficient. This is up from 35%. In 10th grade, 47% of the whole class was proficient. This was down from 59%, but 18 were exempt. But I should explain, even if they're exempt, their scores still count because they are proficient. So they're still in that proficient percentage. And then in 11th grade, only 20% were proficient, and this is down from 40%. But
How come we're losing so much ground all the time here?
great question. Part of it is, as you look at the time that the kids are taking the test, the kids aren't taking it seriously. I mean, and that's not all that there is, but that is part of it.
And that's why we went with the exempt
Yep.
part, is to incentivize them to do the best they can on that first test, then they get out of
Get
the
out,
rest of them. Where before, we're having to test kids multiple times because they're not taking it serious. They just click through it.
And we've asked the kids too, and I know Mr. Wilson has asked the kids, it's like, well, what do we have to do to get you to care? And they're like, put a grade on it. It's like, but for those kids that struggle, is that really fair then either? You know, so
Yeah.
it's that double-edged sword. It's like you have to collect the data, and I know Mrs. McGee and I know Mr. Schaefer's in the STAR Math all the time and stuff. They can pull and see what areas the kids are low in, and then Mrs. McGee, like, that's where she'll do her research. If they're low in nonfiction reading, she'll start bringing in nonfiction articles. I mean, they both do a phenomenal job of bringing in.
I want to remind you guys that this is one part of it.
Yeah.
We are finding things happening, a kid who has never been successful in this part of it, that we know has support from teachers, support from parents, and had a, dyslexia and can comprehend very well. And so we, as educators, have to say, do you know what? We're not making him read this test because he can't, right? So we're testing his comprehension, so we really have to break it down. What are we truly testing these kids on? But how many years did that go by that he was getting in the tier three? I mean, we're talking single digits. That my daughter just tested for dyslexia. So we have to truly think about what is the purpose of the STAR assessment? It's a test whether or not they comprehend. Well, if they can't read it because of a disorder, then we gotta look deeper. So it's not always black and white.
And this is one snapshot.
Right.
This is one day.
It's a snapshot. And
What if that kid lost their dog in the morning?
the
we
really
just don't
cool
know.
thing is the things Mrs. Brin is doing with the kids who are falling in those tiers. We found some resources that, we can literally get it down to what exactly they're needing at the younger age. So it's really nice that she has that role where she's able to pull them and give them a few things to narrow it down and see what they need and then adjust to that.
And it's not a true indicator of how our kids are doing.
No.
It's a tool for us, and like Ms. Bussey said, Mr. Schaefer, Mrs. McGee or whatnot, to find out what areas that they're weak in that they can then start drilling on, to focus to try and get that better. Why in the elementary they have all those small groups is so that they can work on all of those deficiencies. So it's not necessarily where our kids are performing at, it's information that we use to help guide what we're gonna do in the classrooms.
And then after state testing, Mrs. Underwood, last year we didn't, but we're hoping to get back to it since COVID. We compare the categories of the STAR test and we compare the categories of the state test to see what areas our kids are low in and if they're the same, if they're different, if it's just worded different, because sometimes it just comes down to the words that are used in the test too. So it all comes into play. So, and you can see our STAR math scores, we're doing pretty well there. Our 11th graders went up from 41% to 69%. And our biggest class, 65% of the sophomore class is exempt from taking the STAR test for the rest of the year. And that one might be a little higher after this next one, I'm not sure. But I know the exempts, percentages increased too, because I did have one time when I went into 7th and 8th grade to let the teacher know, okay, these kids don't have to take a test, I had a kid come up and ask, well, I don't have to take it. No, yeah, you do. Yeah, no, they made sure they're not taking it the rest of the year. So, these kids know.
Just to clarify on the math exemption part of it.
Oh, yeah.
They're exempted if they're part of the 75th percentile and above on their score, and they still have to maintain a C and above. If they're getting a D or an F, they have to take the STAR math test even though they exempted out of the test. So if they're getting a D or an F in the math class, they still have to take the STAR math again.
Which I do like that correlation, because if they're testing that high, they should be able to do it in the classroom too.
Yep.
So I do like that part of it. I forgot that. Thank you, Mr. Schaefer.
Another point too, when you see these, there's nobody harder on these than the teachers themselves, if it does go down, but I want to remind you that if a score goes up or down, 100% of students could have grown overall, and so we have all of that data too, and Mrs. Brain can talk for days on all the data that those reports give you. So 100% of students in one grade could have grown, but they're still not meeting that proficiency.
they might not have grown to the rate that the rest of their
Right,
peers
right.
nationally did.
So, that's a hard thing to wrap your head around, that, okay, they're growing by 2 scaled score points, 2, 2, 2, but we wanna see that trend line go up and hopefully get them to that proficiency side. So keep that in mind too as we're navigating.
That's all
Thank you.
I have.
Thank
Any-
you.
That's awesome.
Oh, did you have a question?
Well, I was just saying, cause
Yep.
when we first started doing this, or you started doing this, it was more elementary focused, and now you've kind of brought the whole school into it, so.
Fine.
Yeah.
It's
So,
good.
you know, when you went on the elementary side, you saw a lot of ups, and so I don't know, I think it's a good thing, so.
Yeah.
It is, and when we created the position, this was the intent of it,
Yep.
you know, and I don't think she gets enough credit for how much time she puts into creating all of this, because she has a lot of stuff that nobody sees, but she puts together, just like she just said, if you wanted to see it,
It's there.
it's there. And oftentimes, you know, nobody's really looking at in depth to the site that she goes to it, but all that information is there. And, you know, she works really well with the teachers in getting them the information, and so that they can then in turn use it to help guide their curriculum choices.
How do these numbers stack up against other districts? I mean, do we compare that, or how do we tell overall how this
The only
facility
thing
is
that you can truly compare district to district, I'll be honest, is the state test, because that is the same. Where some schools do STAR, like we do, some do MAP, some do Ames Web, some do FastBridge. So now you're not comparing the same test to each other. Okay, some schools, we make all kids take it in the classroom together. Some schools like us, if we're Title I especially, if they need a quiet place, they can go have a quiet place. If they need to go read it out loud, doesn't matter if they're on a 504 or IEP, because we're Title I, they can go read it out loud by themselves. Some schools can't do that. If they're Title I targeted, that means only kids that are enrolled in Title I can get the help with the testing. Does that make sense? So that's really hard to compare this data to other school districts.
I don't know what a state assessment can be compared.
Right,
Yeah,
that's
that's the
about the
one that
only
we
one we
want
can
to
compare.
use.
Which is 3rd grade and up.
Yep.
And that was the one that I said that we start March 22nd through the
Yep.
25th.
And every grade takes that?
Grades
Third.
3 through 8, and then grades 10 for ELA math, and then 4, 8, and 10 for science.
It's a hard test.
Yep.
It is.
And it's
Put
done
all-
on an
put all your
iPad,
grades down.
and you have to scroll on one side and navigate, and it's really just figuring out how to navigate the platform
It's
for a
knowing
lot
how
of
to take the test.
Right.
more than anything.
Yeah,
It's very overwhelming for 3rd graders.
It is, their first time.
and we do practice tests and go through it, and
Candy, cookies.
But
gum.
even if
But
a
these
school does
ones
STAR
are just
data.
used individually for schools.
Yeah.
Whether they use this, or they use MAP, or whatever it is, you know, for the first few years, we had to narrow it down, because we were doing a lot of testing. And then we had to figure out, okay, what's absolutely necessary? Title had the things that they needed in order to fill out their reports. Then we had to decide, okay, how many of these tests do we actually need? Let's just keep the ones that are necessary to do the things that we want them to do. And these are the ones that we've chosen. So these ones are by our own election to use these to help us internally. The state's assessment is the one that the state uses to compare us to other school districts.
And feedback from the teachers, because we did not test when they came back to school this year, because we only wanted to test 3 times. Feedback from the teachers that I've heard so far is to move that, so we're testing them so they have that knowledge coming in, like where were they at after the summer, and then after trimester 1 and after trimester 2. So,
Understand that.
and then, you know where they are at the end of the year
Right.
because you're teaching them. So that's been discussed, and we'll talk about that as we move forward.
And I know the high school end too was looking at dropping one of the testing windows, because we were testing 5, beginning and then every
I think we
quarter.
went down to 3.
Yeah.
Didn't we, Mr. Schaefer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So high school is looking at like trying to limit two, which will hopefully help some of those that, you know, take more time instead of, 2 minutes, let's just A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D,
I
you know.
think, beginning of the school year and then one in each semester.
Yep, that's
Oh,
what
there
we're
you-
talking about, yep. Yep,
Thank you very much.
yes, you're welcome.
Questions?
Nope.
Okay.
Great.
Thanks, Tina.
Yep.
Unpaid leave request.
I assume this was.
Oh,
This was
mine?
Mrs. Busty, yeah, yeah.
Oh, I didn't even see that part on the agenda. Do I need to say anything?
Just
We got the information
Yeah, we
at the
got-
last meeting.
Yeah, we didn't know how many or what there was.
I don't know how many. The move-in date keeps getting changed, and it depends, we have.
So you might not need any, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I don't know. And we have some some major graduations coming up. I know one is on a Friday, and I'm not sure of the other one quite yet, so I wanted to be proactive and see. I have 2 full personal days and some hours, I think. So I wouldn't think more than a few, 3, handful, not even. So it's just to move and get settled, and then a couple graduations, depending on when, one is Minnesota, so I'm assuming it's after school.
Yeah, 'cause we have, last month, that was, just a thought was.
Just give us a heads up so we know, yep.
Yeah, you're not gonna throw a week or 2 weeks or anything in there, yeah.
Well, unless something seriously happens while we're moving, I don't know. Break a back or something,
But then that would be
Well,
medical.
that's a
anyway.
different realm.
That would be
True,
medical,
true.
so.
Yes, no, I would say with the I would have to look, but I think I have 2 personal days. I would say 3 unpaid with the 1 day of graduation, and then depending on when it lies in move-in and.
So when you say unpaid, how do you subtract that off a salary then?
SUI does it for us. You
Okay.
just literally put in a -1 day and it calculates it.
Well, that's tricky.
Well, I
I'm
guess
just curious how they did that, you know?
from my perspective, I feel Mrs. Bussey's been at a lot of meetings and events and things that are outside of the school day, or her hours, if that's how it looks at. I mean, I guess I'd have no problem saying yes to some unpaid leave. That would be my thoughts. Anyone else have a thought?
I know Rob is excited to have his new neighbors, so that would help too.
Are you gonna go help her?
You better go help her so she doesn't have to take any more days.
How many days?
Her time frame isn't gonna work very well for me.
Bad window there.
Yes, maybe in July I would've.
It still may be in July, we don't know yet.
The question is, do we wanna set it on a days, do we wanna be it open, we just need a motion of one thing or the other?
I'll make a motion for 3 days.
Okay.
And if you need more, you can come back.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll second that.
Okay, motions for 3 days, second by Michelle. Any other discussion? If not, roll call.
Rob,
Yes.
Chad,
Yep.
Michelle,
Yes.
Cindy, yes, Mike,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Brett.
Yes.
Okay, sabbatical leave is next.
And that got rescinded.
What?
You
Excuse
and I
me?
got emails that got rescinded. She
What?
was asking not to take it anymore.
Take,
Yeah, she said take it off the agenda.
take it off the
Oh.
agenda.
Oh,
So,
okay.
yeah, she put it, you guys got the letter, but then
Mhm.
she sent Mike and I letters, email,
Oh,
asking to rescind
It
it.
must've been late, pretty late today.
I don't know when she sent it. That
That's
was-
why you're here, right?
I just have one question on that, just, about the sabbatical leave, just on the negotiated agreement.
But that's not, is that part of our, can that be this?
Is that okay?
I don't know, I'm asking. if
There
that-
would be question on if we were going to do it,
But we're not.
we're not right now, so
Alright.
yeah, cause it would've, I know there would be
But
a
I
question.
agree
on
what
the
you're,
That's fine.
I think I know what he's going,
I don't, did you?
do you know what you're going for though?
Okay, well, anyway, it's off the table, okay. BCN road sign. At the retreat, we talked about that. I called the state again. They said, boy, we still got your file. We don't have to do a site because, you requested it in 16, 18, and
And you're
20.
not gonna leave us alone until.
And I'm back again, and they have changed the rules as of last year. We can get a sign. It'd be our sign to purchase, our sign if it gets run over or whatever, we have to purchase it all the time. It's our sign. They will set, they have to put it up and they have to go to their specs. So the quote for that sign I got back today, round number is $500 for the two signs.
And that's only gonna go one sign out there then?
Be
Or-
one
It's gonna
sign
have the-
northbound, one side southbound on number one.
Will it
at the
be with
intersection.
the sign that's already there saying Wimbledon? It'll be separate, huh?
So
Weird.
it's gotta be a 5-foot by 30-inch high sign. That's what the specs are for there, so yes, you gotta do the road specs, but we have to purchase it, we have to pick it up, deliver it to DOT. DOT will,
Get around to it?
they have to install it, they gotta use all the right stuff. If it gets run over, the reflection goes bad,
We
it's back
replace
on
it.
us, we have to replace it. But that's what I got on it, so basically between 470 and 505, so I believe that's kind of the quote I got back.
That's for.
For the two,
For the two,
signs.
yeah,
Total,
total.
235 to 250 per sign, so yeah, round numbers of $500. Quotes from 470 to 505. They weren't sure in what the aluminum mill they needed to spec, so that's the little bit of difference.
What did you say the dimensions were? I read it already, Mike, but what was it?
5 foot by 30 inches.
Yeah, I think that's about what it is.
5
I
foot
said-
long,
Yeah,
30
okay.
inches high.
Oh. And so.
I sent a sheet out to, I think that's what it was, yeah.
And so it's going to have its own pole and not below what's already there.
Correct.
I'm interested to see where that goes. Once they get around to it.
There's it's probably gonna go on
The south side
south
of
of
9.
of nine, well, they're both south with one each side, but south of probably the city signs, where it says Wimbledon.
Yeah, so
Oh,
BCN
south
first
of-
and then,
I would guess
Okay,
that's,
so it'll say BCN and then be
my
the
guess
city?
is when they kind of let us know.
I like that.
But yes, that's what I got.
I think we should get a sign, I guess.
Okay, so that's all we, yeah, he said, we don't have to do a site visit, Mike, I've got all your paperwork here.
Well, one big map somewhere, yeah.
Yeah, there'd be one on each, one northbound and one southbound, it'll be show Barnes, the county north school, 8 miles, and an arrow, that's basically what it is.
I like it.
It'll be a green sign, like the regular
Mhm.
DOT sign.
All motion for one.
Okay,
I second it.
by Eric. Roll call.
Rob,
Yeah.
Chad,
yep,
Michelle,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Brett.
Sure.
They'll be happy I won't call back.
Finally get rid of that guy.
Yeah, I would get rid of him.
They probably changed the rules just for you, Mike.
I don't
Mike, you got this email to your my BCN,
Oh, okay, I
Not
didn't get it
US.
on this one, yeah,
no,
okay.
but 544 yesterday, and it just says, I'd like to rescind my request to be considered for sabbatical for next year.
Yep, I didn't check that one. Okay. Teacher contracts was the next, and I think that's more to when we're looking to release or send them out. It's just, in the past, we've always done it in roughly in the April timeframe. Is that right, Mike? I mean, that's kind of
Yeah.
when we've normally done it.
Yeah, you can send them out anytime.
Anytime after, it's from
After
March
March.
1 to May 1. It's just
Mhm.
when do we want to get them ready, release.
Lindsay, when did we release them last year? Didn't we have it, what was the date?
Oh,
Last
and
year was
negotiations.
That was
Oh.
after negotiations, so.
Never
that'd
And
be
the
a
year
different-
before was
Yeah.
COVID, so it was
Oh,
into
geez.
April, and then
Yeah.
before that, I don't know.
Okay.
Go back to find out when the when would we like to send them out this time? They can be, like I say, anywhere from March 1 to May 1. That's the window.
Right.
So just.
April first.
Well, I think the earlier April,
Yeah.
the better.
You know,
I agree.
May 20th,
I mean, yeah, even if we can do it in March, it would be,
March 20th, I mean, yeah.
yeah.
Okay, they have to be prepared.
How long do they have to?
They have 14 days.
14 days to have them back.
March 20th is a Sunday, so let's not do March 20th.
Well,
Well,
I know what you're saying though, sometime in March. Or do we
yeah, I
want,
don't know if there's a time frame or if they're in that, but, and get them out so it gets,
well, let's do April 1st, it's a Friday, and then that gives them 2 weeks. We put it back on the week before our next meeting.
So, okay, so motion is for April 1. Chad, is that your motion?
Yep.
Okay,
I'll second that.
okay, Cindy, any other discussion? If not, roll call, Lindsay.
Rob,
Yes.
Chad,
Yep.
Michelle,
Yes.
Cindy. Yes. Mike,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Eric, Brett.
sure.
Okay, be released April 1. Next is our board member seat appointment. We have, I didn't catch, you said you had one more late today.
Yep, so
Yeah.
there's one
Four
that came in
total.
about 3:40 this afternoon.
Four total?
Mhm. So we had Cody Alman, Jennifer Bollingberg, Jason Haugen, and Jill Naninga Carlson. Nanny.
And
So I guess I will hand out ballots.
So do you want us to sign them, or are we just gonna check names? What do you,
I
because
guess-
you know who they're coming from.
I think you should sign them
We're
first.
signing them,
Okay,
but
she's
she's not reading the name out.
She's just
Okay,
reading
got
the,
it.
And if there's a tie, you have to vote again.
Yeah.
I have them all here if you want to look at them.
I just haven't seen the last two. Wahlberg and Gill.
I forgot to sign my name. Did that help?
Thank you.
probably gonna make a move.
He's still doing his. Or I can just bring him over when he's done.
He's looking for exercise.
Thank you.
Huh? You wanna shuffle them too? One vote for Jennifer Bollingberg. One vote for Jennifer Bollingberg. One vote for Jennifer Bollingberg. One vote for Jason Haugen. One vote for Jennifer Bollingberg. Jennifer Bollingberg. Jennifer Bollingberg. And Jennifer Bollingberg. So 7-1, Jennifer Bollingberg.
So do you contact all these?
Yeah,
the
there's paperwork I
procedure?
have to send out, yeah.
Okay. Do you'll contact all of the applicants, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So then the next part is the update, we're not looking to update all committees, but we're looking to replace Mr. Bruners. So my recommendation for you guys to vote on is to put Jennifer, which is the new appointer, onto the Building and Grounds Committee and the Negotiations Committee, and put Eric Groton on the Extracurricular Committee. That's what my recommendation would be.
So then you're going down to,
We're just replacing Bruners.
okay,
That's all we're looking
all
at
we're
right
doing,
now.
okay, yep,
Bill
Yep.
Bruners.
I got it.
Oh, yeah, we don't change them,
Yeah,
any
we're
We're
not
not looking
limits
to
right
change
now,
the
yeah.
rest of
Right.
ours.
Not till July when you build a new
Right.
board.
Right.
Okay,
Correct. I'm
perfect.
just looking to
Yep. Got it.
replace Mr. Bruner's positions.
Yeah.
So my recommendation is put Eric
Eric
on
on.
extracurricular,
Yep,
and Jennifer, the new one, on the two other ones he was
Yeah.
on, which was building and grounds and negotiations.
Yeah.
I will second that recommendation, or
I-
wait,
I-
I have
Was
to
that
make
was the
You gotta make a
motion, though.
That's
I
my
will make-
recommendation.
Sorry. I agree with that, so I'm gonna make a motion to put Eric on extracurricular committee and Jen on building and grounds and negotiations.
I will second that,
That would be a roll call.
Rob,
yes.
Chad,
Yep.
Michelle,
Yes.
Cindy. Yes. Mike,
Yes.
Lee.
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Brett.
Yes.
Next is superintendent evaluation. You've got, you've looked at that, or you've seen that. I gave it to Mike to look at, we really never talked much about it, but I brought it up to him, he's seen it. So because there are some discrepancies in there for satisfactory, unsatisfactory, so we're gonna have to look at them by area of performance. So the first one is the general administration and board relations. So as I compiled them, through the individual evaluations, a majority of board members have rated it satisfactory. So my question is, I would entertain a motion to approve this as a satisfactory evaluation for that area of performance.
I will make a motion to make it satisfactory.
That one, okay, is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussions there? If not, we would have a roll call for this area of performance.
Rob,
Yes.
Chad,
Yeah.
Michelle,
Yes.
Cindy. Yes. Mike,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Brett.
Yes.
The next one is if there's any comments from that section that you would like deleted or not, because it is individual ones, these will become board evaluation comments, so just an option to delete or change or whatever there. If not,
Can I get a clarification on that? So when you comment on this evaluation, it goes in under your personal comment as the
and then,
reflection of the
yeah,
entire board?
so take, I have a comment on here. Okay, so this is individual ones that you can look at. Then we're approving a board superintendent evaluation, so you could have discussion to take any of those out if you don't believe that to be what it needs to be. But you could take any of these motion and the whole group would have to.
So, okay, I missed it. When did we get the comments from everybody?
When
sent it out.
he sent it out,
He sent it out
On that,
a couple days
I
ago.
seen the eval with everyone, the composite scores, but all the comments
We're
were.
in there
Yeah.
too,
Yes.
yeah.
yeah, just scroll down through them.
If not, any changes, then we can move on to second area of performance. Hearing no changes, we'll move to B, fiscal management, same thing. Majority of the evaluation is satisfactory, minority is unsatisfactory. I would entertain a motion because it's, majority is satisfactory for a satisfactory evaluation on area of performance fiscal management.
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Any discussion there? Hearing none, roll call.
Rob,
Yes.
Chad,
No.
Michelle,
No.
Cindy,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Eric,
No.
Brett.
Yes.
5-3, okay. Any comments on there that would like to be taken on? I guess for the simplest answer.
I guess for me, when I read that he's very well prepared for a budget, I don't feel that we get information ahead of time or information that he is seeking out information, so I'm not sure, I don't like the comment very well prepared. He presents, the basic budget, but I don't feel it's, goes further than a basic budget, in my opinion. So I don't know how to reword it, but I would like very well out of there. Maybe just leave it as prepared.
Okay, that would be a motion you would like to take out very well.
Yes.
Okay, is there a second to that?
I'll second it.
Okay. Motion is to take out those two words very well. Roll call.
Rob,
No.
Chad,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Mike,
No.
Lee,
No.
Eric,
I don't know how to, I haven't seen the comments, so I
There.
don't know if I
Here.
can respond to that.
You got an extra copy? Here you go.
Take that out of his comment.
No.
I'll read out there.
Brett,
No.
I want these back. I want that back when we're done, but you can look at it for. Oh, you got it on there? Okay.
so we had 5 no's.
Right.
Correct. That is correct.
Close states, 5 no's, okay. School district policy, looking for a motion for all satisfactory, because that is how the individuals came back.
I'll make a motion.
All satisfactory?
All
is there-
satisfactory.
Second by Cindy. All in favor of that? Oh, roll call, Lindsay, sorry.
Rob,
Yes.
Chad,
Yeah.
Michelle,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Brett.
Yes.
Okay. Anything need to be come out? Okay. D, discrepancy there, majority of the individual evaluations is satisfactory, minority is unsatisfactory. But still entertain a motion to make it satisfactory. Section D, instructional program.
I'll make a motion.
Satisfactory? Okay.
I'll second.
Second by Rob. Any other discussion there? Hearing none, roll call, Lindsay, on section D.
Rob,
Yes.
Chad,
Yeah.
Michelle,
No.
Cindy,
Yes.
Mike,
No.
Lee,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Brett.
Yes.
Okay. Any comments off that one? Hearing none, we'll move to section E, school plant and equipment. Entertain a motion for all satisfactory as that is the individual scores that came back.
I'll make a motion to all satisfactory for section E.
Second.
Second. Roll call, Lindsay?
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Eric, Brett.
Yes.
Anything on comments? If not, we move to the section F. Hearing none, we'll move to section F. From the individual ones, majority of them back were satisfactory, minority of unsatisfactory. I would entertain a motion for satisfactory.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, satisfactory?
I'll second.
Lee? Any other discussion? If not, roll call.
Rob,
Yes.
Chad,
Yeah.
Michelle,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Brett.
Yes.
Last one, section G.
Mike,
Yeah, go ahead.
if I could, just, I'm reading through my comment and I damn spelled or autocorrect changed, more visible in all, it should be communities instead it says communication, so.
Okay.
So if we could change that term to communicate, or from communications on the second line
To community.
to communities of our district.
How about your strategic plan?
You know what? That too. Go ahead, just autocorrect it,
Communities instead of communication.
yes.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, make that change. Last section G, entertain a motion for satisfactory as that was as I reviewed the individual comments.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Roll call there, Lindsay.
Rob,
Yes.
Chad,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
Brett.
Yes.
Anything on comments there? Then make a board comments. Hearing none, so all the comments are there, we'll make that one change. So, all in all, a satisfactory evaluation. Thank you, Mr. Severson.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, school calendar is up next. Is this looking for approval at this time, or is this a conversation, where are we at?
We have two drafts.
Yep.
Mr. Wilson was able to meet with his staff, and I was able to wrap up meeting with mine, and we came together and meshed them together, and it actually worked really well. I was nervous. And so we presented you with two drafts, and the first one we really liked, and then we got to the contact days, and we're like, we don't know our flexibility on that because it's not in the negotiated agreement, but it is in the contract days. So then we made draft 2, and the difference between that is taking out those 2 days, which was some extra breaks in the spring, which is what the teachers, some of the feedback that we got from teachers, instead of a longer Christmas break, things like that. One thing that you'll notice is that we aligned parent-teacher conferences with Veterans Day. So we do have a day off right after parent-teacher conferences, and then we use that comp day in December on both calendars this time.
A question on that, when is that Veterans Day?
11th,
What day of the week is it?
Friday.
Friday.
Okay, 'cause this year that was on
It was on a Thursday, and we still came back Friday, but it was a snow day this year.
But now, is there a push that Veterans Day be honored on the 11th and not just that?
There
Friday?
is, it has to be.
Mhm.
Cause I have heard from a lot of people, why are we taking Thursday off and coming
Coming
back
back on
Friday?
Yeah.
I mean, and I was the same way until I figured that out, that it had to be observed on the 11th.
It has to
Lot.
be, and, you know, when we did it, I know people are like, well, they did it this way, but it ended with timing as far as trimesters and stuff, and so nobody brought that up in discussion, and we had discussed utilizing that as our mentor day, like with our house system, so we had the half-a-day plan to, like, come back and have this morning and then a whole afternoon meeting with our mentees in our houses and stuff. So we had that kind of day back planned as we knew it was going to be out of routine and out of structure. Does that make sense?
It does, but as a parent, I mean, I'd
Yeah.
much rather avoid that
Absolutely.
situation every single
Absolutely.
time possible.
And it wasn't brought up during discussion at all during the calendar discussion, so
The worst one was 2 years ago, it was on a Wednesday.
Wednesday, yeah. So,
So is the contact days,
That should say contract,
contract days?
that bottom part, that bottom one.
Cause I know our contracts say 182, which we've always worked off of, so in your discussions, has that been brought up?
yeah, so that would be draft 2.
No, I mean, with the change to 184.
No, that's why, I mean, that one worked out that way when we were doing the counting, and then I didn't know how that would look, and so,
Cause we weren't sure how you guys were coming up with the 182, because in the negotiated agreement, it doesn't specify days. It's just specified on their contracts, once they get their contracts.
we were going back and forth, I know you and I talked about this, Mike, like the 5 days, and I talked to the staff, like, how are we gonna hold you accountable to your contracts if we're not making up 5 days of snow days? And so that would be like, well, there's 2 days of flexibility, but you can have an argument from anyway, so,
I'm gonna go back, Stacy's here, we've had the discussion when they went from hours, or days to hours. You know, what do we do with that, but it's always been in your interpretation of 182, correct?
Contract days.
Contract days.
contract, yes,
So I don't
I'm
see us
missing out.
going away from 182.
Yep, and that's why we did that draft 2.
So we're really looking at draft 2.
That's what I would say. Because of that, I was,
Yeah, cause with the 175, went with the 175 days, because that's how it used to be.
What used to be, years back, Stacy and Greg, it was 175, 3 holidays, 2 comp days, 2 professional development. And some of the others, we've adding additional professional development. There's the difference to drop from the 175, 173, which we can do.
and that was an option, because we do have an extra day of professional development. Feedback from teachers, they wanted back to school night after school started. 95% of parents wanted it before school started. So I had that conversation with them, like, we could have taken out that Monday as a professional development day, but I was like, what if we do a half a day, and then you guys work in your classrooms, and then we have that back to school night that evening? And they responded really well to that, and so we rolled with it and kept that a professional development day. And so, yeah, feedback was they really liked coming back from Christmas break with a professional development day and then getting students the next day. So that was one thing that we wanted to keep too.
I did talk to Ms. Bussey about one concern, and we're gonna meet tomorrow as at vocational board, and that's tough trying to mesh things there, but the talk was at some point, do we wait for that makeup days? If we go with this calendar compared to what, we're gonna have the discussion tomorrow, so here's the dilemma I'm gonna face at vocational set meeting is, we're gonna lose instructional days, the way this count, 4 days at beginning of the year, 4 days at Christmas, we're at 8. If we take 5 days that we don't come back, we lose 13 instructional days in vocational classes.
And
That's what's gonna come, and they're gonna say, you don't have enough instructional time.
And my recommendation would be to wait to approve this until we meet as a policy committee and figure out what we're doing with that policy. I think that will give us some direction.
But that's what we're kinda waiting on, they're waiting for calendars to come back. Valley's already approved theirs. This will kinda mesh with Maple Valley, but Maple Valley's not taking that long a break at Christmas. But that's the issue that
Would
came up last
this
year.
long a break at Christmas?
They're not taking as long a break as Valley City.
Oh, yeah, no,
Yes.
they are doing two, okay.
The dilemma we talked about there was trying to pull these schedules so we weren't having the possibility of up to 13 days of notice instruction.
But we don't miss any days at the beginning of the year.
They won't be running because they would have to run with looking.
Yeah, we start before them, so our
So-
kids would be starting class the same day that they start.
But they're not starting then because we're gonna try to mesh these schedules, so that won't be starting till 4 days later
Yeah,
at VOTEC. So
Yep.
we won't get 4 days of
no,
instruction.
we'll get those.
We
No,
won't.
the
get-
VOTEC
They
students won't.
They
as
won't.
VOTEC students.
VOTEC students will not get those because there's no VOTEC going on. If we go to that other schedule, one of our
Yeah,
other
so they
schedules.
start the week after.
Correct, if that's where we end up with. I'm saying the dilemma would be,
We're missing those
we
days.
would, if they started later,
They're missing the days, not us.
Our students.
Our students are
would
missing
go.
a day.
In
No,
general.
they wouldn't go, but when they start up on, I think they're starting on the 23rd. When they start up, our kids would be starting that same day.
but to your
And
your
then
calendar,
we go longer
the end of the year won't
at
matter,
Christmas, we go longer.
which we won't have
Class.
classes there.
Yeah, but our kids aren't missing classes there. They're still able to go to all of the classes, every class that they have, except if they have professional development days on the days that we don't, they'll be able to
We wouldn't be,
attend.
they would be probably off the days at Christmas. They would be probably taking 2 full weeks. So
They follow Valley City.
they will probably
Yeah.
follow Valley City's schedule.
And they have 2
Yep.
full weeks?
They do.
But they must be going later in the spring then to catch up
Yeah.
on all the days.
Right, but
So that's.
So then
where
our
we're
kids are
going.
gonna
That's
miss-
where
So
we'll
the
actually
days
miss
that
the
our
days,
kids are gonna
the days
miss
that,
Are in the spring.
going down there will be, January 2nd and 3rd,
yes.
because they're gonna start on the 2nd.
Yep.
So it's those 2 days, and then the last week, however many days they go
Well,
from the 22nd
We'll
to
be
the
a week,
26th.
we'll
So-
be out a week before they get out down there.
Yep, so we're
So we're
looking
gonna
at
lose days at the
losing
end.
roughly
13 days.
7 days.
Plus, yes, 7 days, plus if we
I-
take 5 off.
I think
Oh,
the
if
issue.
we have the snow.
Yes,
I think
that's-
the issue
yes.
is the snow days, and that's why I recommend, like,
If we had like now,
Not
we would add 5 to what you've got, and that's where the issue, that we've got the dilemma there when we have our
Yeah.
discussion.
and so this does say store makeup days, say after 5
After
days.
5.
But I know we had started the discussion, and then we just haven't had a policy committee meeting, which, that was a huge part of it, from what I
Yes.
remember.
Mhm.
And so I had told that to Mike when we brought that up, like, and there are some days we don't have school and Valley City
Yes.
does because of our location, and so,
There are some other days off that we
Yep.
don't, but we're just talking about the ones that possibly, if you didn't take, if we had the year like this year, and we didn't make up 5, and you have these other days we can't get them there, we get up to this 12 or 13 possible non-instructional days, which is gonna be what we're gonna visit about tomorrow. But that's why I just wanted to get a feedback
yes.
when we have our discussion tomorrow at the vocational
And
center.
we had talked about that too, Mike, with those, when it came to 184, and we're like, we didn't have to make up any days, or
Yeah.
how do we want to approach that? How would we want to visit with the teachers about that, or?
Well, on draft 2, I just sit here and I'm looking, you'll put 2 full weeks in, and then you have a Friday off after break.
Oh, after break.
Yeah, after winter
Yeah.
break, you're gonna literally
So
put in
not
only 2
February.
full weeks, and then you're
Mhm.
gonna take a Friday off just to have the Friday off.
And that third was because of those 2 contracted days.
Right,
Yeah.
I get that, but the placement of it,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, the kids don't need a day off after coming back for 2 full weeks and 3 short weeks. I mean, that's what that boils down to.
And.
So I mean,
Yeah,
like,
and it got put there because if you look at March, it can't go into March because there's a bunch of days there that are gonna be
And
off.
like I said, we used feedback from the teachers where they would rather have more days, more longer weekends in that second chunk of the school year than a longer Christmas break. And I'm speaking for the elementary staff I'm not sure about the high school staff and what they gave for feedback, but I know they want those days to make sure the semester ends at Christmas time. I think that's still relevant. So we were taking the staff here into consideration too when it came down to that, so.
Is there any way school could start on the 23rd?
Of August. Then that doesn't allow us to end the first semester at Christmas break. That's why we went to it to begin with, is so that first semester would be done at Christmas break rather than having to come back for 4 days.
That was the high, yeah, that was the high school.
So that's, cause I know personally when I had to teach and then come back for a couple days in class and then we got finals week, it's like, okay, we just took 12 to 14 days off doing anything, had a couple days to try and get them ready for finals. You know, so.
Like the third could go, you know, that third day off could go closer to the end of trimester two, to allow for a longer weekend for families to travel somewhere or do something if there's no snow days involved. I totally get your point with the, you know, and then 4 days allows families to do something, and that's why I like to get them out. I didn't even have Thanksgiving break when I showed my staff, so. They're like, what are we missing in November, Mrs. Bussey? I'm like, I don't know. So, and you count and recount and print and recount, and you're trying to make sure everything aligns, so it's definitely something that.
I do like how the days work out, like the number of contact days per quarter and
Yes.
per trimester.
Yeah,
I
it
think
did
that
work
is
out
really,
well.
like, that's really good.
But like you said, that third can be moved to the 17th. We could end the trimester on the 16th, you know? It is little things that people notice that when you're looking for certain things or you like certain things a certain way, you might not notice it until somebody else points it out, so.
Right.
And that's
So were you saying move that
the
February
3rd to the
to the
17th, and then that would be that 4-day weekend.
Yeah.
Well, cause I've been in the classroom and I think,
Yeah.
I get when I was teaching kindergarten, I get my kindergartners back on the 4th, and those 3 days, it's just like getting them back down to what they
Yes,
need to do.
That was also.
Then I have a nice full week with them, and then all of a
And
sudden I'm
then
like, oh, you get a
MLK
3-day weekend,
Yep.
and then 4 days, and then a week, and then, oh, another 4 days, and it's
I'm
just.
all about structure and
Yes,
routine.
so
I totally get it.
that's my opinion, I'm not the one in the front lines anymore, so if the teachers like it, great, like, cause they're the ones in the front lines, I'm just giving my opinion, that's it.
Yep.
So,
I would say from the parent side of things too, like having a bunch of Fridays off is not really ideal because you have work and everything, but if it's.
And
well,
it
regardless, it
falls
will
into
be a
4-day,
Friday though,
But I mean, then it
so.
falls in on a 4-day weekend.
If you
where
tie it
can
into
actually
something
do
else.
So
it.
it'd be easier to have it separate than a board. Okay, then my next question, or maybe we're not talking about that, the storm day thing. Like, we know how chaotic the end of the year gets, and so we have all our storm days in March and April. Could that 17th, the 3rd, if we ended up with 3-4 days, I'm just thinking.
No, it could've been, yeah.
Instead of all of a sudden we're losing 1, 2, 3 in a row, something like that. I'm just asking, it might not be the time for it or not, but.
I think those are great suggestions. I would recommend actually having a
What?
committee
Yeah,
for
I got some,
future years.
I have some opinions, cause Fargo's Caitlin got her stuff sent out, cause they have so many storm makeup days, they're in the same boat that we are, so.
Yep.
I'll bring that recommendation to the policy committee and see what you guys think about that, so.
Yeah.
Well, teachers that are here, I mean, are your thoughts, you
Well,
want
so,
that Friday at the third?
no, so what they're doing is,
They didn't say specifically, they just said
I'm just
Fridays
asking the three
throughout
that
that
are-
second.
oh, it's good, yeah.
I wanted their opinion,
And-
they
And
work
correct me
here.
if I'm wrong, Lisa, that was the discussion that was had today. It was, I was a little embarrassed, I forgot Thanksgiving, so.
That is what teachers said today, was they'd rather have more random Fridays off.
More randoms
but I
instead of
know that
chunking them.
They also like, when we have a full week, go, oh, finally a full week.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Well, and this year was chaotic anyways,
It
'cause we
was.
didn't get a full week, the
Yeah.
whole month of January, I
Yeah.
don't think. And the snow, the winter, we know is not typical for hopefully another decade, right?
Right.
Um,
Amen.
But like I said, everybody is a part of it. Our teachers are in the trenches.
Yes.
And so I do value their feedback.
Mhm.
And Mr. Wilson got his teachers, and I know Mr. Shaver's here, so maybe he
So it
can,
kinda coincided then, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
That it-
yeah. And so, you
Just
know,
accent.
we compromise on some things, cause I know some people in the elementary side would like to keep our warm August days as long as we can and, you know, wait it out, but
Mhm. But for
we
the
don't deal with
semester-
semesters,
Right.
so,
Yep.
you know, we compromise for some things. We're doing, conferences right on conference night, you know, it was the week before, and I
Right.
like how it aligns with Veterans Day,
Yep.
so, something there,
I think overall, I think the calendar looks great, like I said, all the days and stuff, I'm just
yeah.
asking questions.
Nope,
just
and
To
then-
clarify.
And so I think it would be nice to send the visual, cause they saw my scratch visual
Without Thanksgiving.
or without the random Fridays, they're like, where did they all go? And so I think it would be nice to be able to send that to them, so they can see, like, you know, what we talked about, how it ended up, and then we meet as a policy committee and discuss
The other stuff.
the other stuff,
Okay.
and
So you just wanna, okay, here we are, you like this calendar, the teachers like, you just wanna go back and we'll approve it next month, is that where we're at?
I think you should wait. I mean, my personal
That's why I'm just
recommendation would
asking
be
a
to
question.
wait to approve it, yeah.
Okay.
I do think we need to work out the snow days or what's going to happen based on policy.
So, moving on,
So we're gonna table this till next month, is basically.
Yeah.
what do you got, Eric?
But we won't have to have a long,
So
I was just wondering, what
We're
was
gonna
your
change
thoughts
that
then on
third to the
moving the third
17th.
to? Yeah,
what's that?
We're
What
gonna
was-
change
No.
the
The
third to the
third
17th.
to the 17th,
No, I don't,
that's a possibility,
it's a possibility, but I think as it sits, we're gonna leave it based on what the staff had said.
and it could be a snow day depending on
And as,
policy.
and, yeah, and as parents and valuing not having 2 days off.
After they've heard the discussion, you can relook at that, we're gonna
Yep.
come back next week.
Yeah, we'll
Perfect.
relook at it and we'll
Thank
make
you.
adjustments depending on feedback.
Yep, perfect.
Okay. Just jump, before we go to the last items, is possible executive session, so is there any correspondence or discussion, anything there? We had superintendent search, which there's gonna be a survey out, Melissa, you sent that, okay? That's going out, we had that group in today, visiting with everybody, so,
I think we made a good choice, getting them on board.
Mike, there's a whole sheet in there that you're supposed to read to go to an executive session. The blue folder.
Blue.
Yeah. This part here?
No, the blue folder.
Blue folder, blue folder.
Oh, the other folder.
The only blue folder you got.
What's this
Super
one here?
secret one.
Here's correspondence or something.
Sorry, discuss.
Well, for the business manager certification,
Oh.
send that around. So nothing else there? Okay, so next item on the agenda is negotiation strategy. This item may be discussed in executive session only when an open meeting would have an adverse fiscal effect on the bargaining or litigation portion of the board. The legal authority for closing this portion of the meeting is North Dakota Central